Sheffield City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
For last week's talk, right? In a sense, this sort of matches it. You know, somebody came up to me today and on the way in he said, "What's the talk about?" And I said, "It's about mental health." And he said, "Well, this is definitely the right group of people to talk to then." Right? That was you. Yes, I'm looking at you. Anyway, so last week was also about, you know, having a good attitude as you get older and exercising and keeping active and staying connected. So I'm delighted that we have Nan here who's a psychotherapist, and he's going to give a talk on mental health. And we call it mental health, but really it's mental/emotional health, right? It's all part of the same spectrum, okay? No good being mentally healthy and depressed. I mean, that's a contradiction in terms. So this is an incredibly important subject. Also, depression tends to be more common as you get older. So this is a very timely topic. All right, so I really thank you so much, Nam, for coming and giving this talk.
Thanks very much, Ren. Okay, good morning, one and all. Good morning. Swadikap. Swadikap. Okay, my name's Namdi, and as Ren rightly said, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm actually a psychologist as well, as I've got a degree and masters and stuff, but I go under the title of psychotherapist, as much as I do sort of counselling and psychotherapy. Yeah, keep the mic. Sorry. Yeah, so mental health, as Ren alluded to, it's also about spiritual and emotional health and physical health. All impacts. So it's kind of like taking a holistic view of health. So if you're physically, ailing in some way, then it's going to impact at some level to your mental health and emotional health as well. Does everyone get that? Does everyone not get that? So you understand where I'm coming from. So it's kind of it's all connected. Okay, so how do you define mental health? How would you say? How hands up, anyone here? How would you define mental health? Depression, yeah, not necessarily the symptoms of it, but just the, how would you describe a mental health, John? Having a clear mind. Yeah, okay, yeah. Thinking normally, what is normally, but yes, okay. Anyone else? Okay, yeah, less angst, I guess. But I guess it's more about going about your everyday life with less dis-ease. So, you know, it's sort of, as opposed to disease, sort of easy. So to be able to function in your everyday life without too much stress and anxiety. That's really about mental health. That's what we all want to try and do. So it's about keeping actively healthy, and as also Ren alluded to, depression and certain mental illnesses, which I won't bore you with because there's a whole list of obviously stuff, but we'll touch on that a bit later on. And also how it impacts us, because you know, we come to this sunny island, you know, sunny space, and you know, but we bring our problems with us, irrespective of what part of the world we come from. You know, temporarily the booze, the beautiful people, the sunshine will sort of dissipate your anxieties and emotions and all that to a certain extent, but they will still come back. Okay. Let me just move to the next slide. Okay. So, believe it or not, Thailand has got the highest rate of suicide in the region. Now, this isn't really publicised too much, understandably so, with the exception of Japan, actually. Japan is the highest, but that's kind of different because of certain work stresses. It's usually to do around employment and that kind of stuff. but Thailand has the highest in the whole region of suicides. Now, I will tell you, can anyone tell me why you think that is? I'm talking both. I'm talking about both. Sorry. Both, yes. But why Thailand? That's a big one. Have we got some mics? We've got a couple of mics that we can sort of, we have a runner. Cheers, Rain. Yeah, no, that's a big part, and I'll touch on that as well, because later on, I've done the slide. I've been coming here for 34 years. 1989 was the first time I came. John.
With financial, like John said, Ron said, financial problems, but I think they don't have anything to do with expats. I think there's a lot of financial problems with Thai people, a lot of debt and a lot of unstable relationships, where many women that, not bar girls, but women in Thailand that are, have regular jobs and everything, their partner has left them, and they're responsible to take care of children, and the spouses don't necessarily give anything. I think the Thai men, from what I've seen, are kind of well known for not being faithful. So I think those things all together.
Firstly, it's both expats and Thai. I'm just talking about in general, so it's not really statistically that. But yeah, there are many reasons. Yes, more. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, but this usually generates a lot of interest because it impacts on every single one of us, and we've all got an interest in it. Yes.
I think the Thais have a social stigma against talking about mental health and lack of resources for treatment.
Excellent. That comes to my next point. Very well put. Because in the Western world, I'm from the UK. Really, I should tell you a little bit about myself first, but that comes a bit later on. I don't want to bore you with my about me. But I will give you a background about where I'm coming from. But you're right. You hit the nail on the head. In as much as Asia are more about sort of ghosts and spirits and that kind of stuff, and it's very difficult to access talking mental health professionals like myself. You can get them. I was doing some research, and in Bangkok, and there's a couple of specific hospitals, you can get psychologists and psychotherapists and that. But it is very, very, very expensive and difficult to access. Waiting lists are absolutely, through the roof. And before I go on about Asia, and specifically Thailand, as I said, I've been coming here for a long time, since '89. Probably been here about 22 times altogether. The last 9 years I've been coming every year for the last 6 months, and now a bit longer. And every time I play a lot of tennis, and every time I come back I hear someone say, oh, so-and-so has gone, jumped off a building or has ended it. And it's really, really difficult to sort of take that news. Now, I'm going to ask a question here. Hands up if anyone knows anyone who's committed suicide or knows of someone personally. Wow. It's probably about a third of people. There you go, you see. And I get asked the question and I'm not sure whether they want help themselves or they or genuinely just, are just angst about it. Because they often think about, is there anything they could have said to that person, their friend, or that they knew that could have helped? And often it's a cry for help initially, but the answer is no. If they're going to decide to take their own lives for whatever reason, as we said, financial, relationships, and there could be a number of lists which will go on about Q&A afterwards, usually comes up. There's a whole array of reasons. Now, I've done some volunteering here in Thailand for free counselling. I did that at the other expats, and I used to offer sort of 30 minutes of just be able to just talk to someone, because that's really what's needed, and to feel listened to. And it's great going down the pub to the bar with your friend, and your friend's got a problem, but they usually hold back because they sometimes can have repercussions. So talking to someone independent, someone professional, and it's contained, it's confidential, really can help them to really express themselves. So looking for signs, for example, You know, you could be eating breakfast with your friend and that kind of stuff. You've met him for years, him or her, and later on you find out that they've taken their life or they've done something or tried to and that kind of stuff. And then you then ask yourself, what could I have done? Is there anything I could have said or done? The best thing to do is just listen. Just listen to them. And then obviously signpost them to where they can get professional support. That would be my best advice to that. Okay. The other way. Okay, so talking therapies. It's actually quite unusual to be in an expat meeting and not talk about insurance and that kind of health. It's always kind of that. So mental health for me surprises, that we don't talk about it enough. We're in a great climate. So we've got swimming pools. We've all got access to swimming pools. So hands up who hasn't got an access to a swimming pool here. There you go. Everyone has. We can walk. We've got beaches. We've got the best climate. So it's about taking advantage of that. And as Ren said, as we get older, declining in age, our mental health does depreciate, does impact on us, and it's about being positive. Even coming here is great for your mental health. Talking to like-minded people who speak the same language or have a similar culture is really, really helpful and beneficial for your mental health. So if you can just get out at least once a week, twice a week, engage with different people, of like-mindedness, really is good for and positive for your mental health, and keeps you young, so to speak. Got to remember to. Okay, so I won't go about too many about a list. I did have a list of all the different mental illnesses, but I won't. So let me just tell you a little bit about me, really. My name's Namdi. I'm a psychotherapist, and I am a psychologist as well, but I go under the title of psychotherapist because it's less intimidating, I guess. And born in the UK, in London, proper Cockney. Born in anyone from the UK? London? Yeah? Okay, yeah, great. About a third, so I'm put on a proper Cockney accent, you know what I mean, geezer? All right, I'm an ex-army fire brigade, so I'm a proper uniformed man, fought for the country, and I'm very proud to be British. And I've had a pretty good experience overall, I would say it's a lot more positive than it's negative, and so as I say, I've been coming here for a long time. Ex-army, ex-fire brigade, and now as a psychotherapist. It's been an interesting journey. But a lot of the work that I do has been with sort of young kids in schools, sort of challenging behaviour. I work mental health in hospitals, predominantly in London. I've worked in black mental health as well, and a variety of other things. Doctor surgeries, where you get referrals from what we have the NHS back in the UK, which is the National Health Service, which refer people from the doctor's surgery to see a therapist, talking therapy. We give them a certain amount of sessions where you talk confidentially. They're able to talk about their issues, and then we look at solutions. I try not to label. That's one of the reasons why I don't come under a psychologist, in the sense that I try not to label people as you're suffering from this or you're suffering from that. We work it out through and look at solutions, because I don't necessarily always find that beneficial for the client or myself. Since the pandemic, 4 years ago now? 3 to 4 years ago? How would you say, in fact, question, how has it impacted on your mental health? Do you think it had, in any way or shape or form, impacted on your mental health? Who doesn't think it had? Who doesn't think that the pandemic impacted in any way, shape or form on their mental health? Doesn't. So you don't think it did at all, John? Wow. Yeah, Mike. Yourself, you don't think it did at all? You think it helped your mental health? In what way did it? Can you get a mic to that? It helped your mental health. Okay. Yeah.
A lot of the people and a lot of friends I had involved in. Yeah, they can.
Okay.
So I actually think it made my mental health stronger.
Right. So when I said impact, it's beneficial because you can have a negative or positive impact. So it doesn't have to be negative, but it had a positive impact for you. But it looked like for a majority of us anyway, it had more of a negative impact. I mean, being told you're not allowed to go out, you're not allowed to do that, and all of us that think we live in a democracy, that was a short reminder about how maybe we not as democratized as we thought. But yeah, no, you're right. A lot of people did reevaluate their life, and I found as a therapist that the knock-on effect, especially for younger generation, lost a big chunk of their lives. Can you imagine, like a lot of the youngsters? I mean, my daughter is 27 now, but at that time, fortunately she had left university and she was working, so it wasn't. But imagine a 16-year-old told you're not allowed to meet your friends for 6 months, not even leaving to go out. The impact that has. So I've had eating disorders. I've had clients that have many sort of take control. Sorry, you had your hand up? Is anyone out there? Yeah, so eating disorders and a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health to do with anxiety and stuff shot up after the pandemic. Debt. It had a massive impact on relationships. Again, couple relationships. The breakdowns has just been horrendous. And it's okay, I'm talking about the UK predominantly, but even here in Thailand, the impact on that with the expats. There's been a lot of, I've had about 3 or 4 people who I personally knew, but also clients that have come to me with breakdown of their relationships because of the impact, primarily to do with the pandemic and the lack of resources that are able to access due to the pandemic. So yeah, it's been it's not always a positive impact. The majority of the time it's been negative. So great on you if you've been able to get a more positive outlook on from the pandemic, but it hasn't been that for everyone. Yeah, face-to-face counselling. I mean, since the pandemic, a lot of my work has now moved online, which on one hand is good. I'm a bit old school, so I'm face-to-face. I like looking at people's eyes and interaction. You get a lot more from them, from the body language and actually stuff that they don't say. But counselling does work online, so don't be deterred by that. Us older generation, might think, oh no, I can't be talking to someone online. It's not the same. I'd rather do that. But the practicalities of it works, and a lot of people feel more secure in their own environment as opposed to coming out to a clinical practice. And also the travelling and anxiety might be part of their issue as well. They're presenting issues, so not being able to travel to go and see a therapist, is a great help for them to start. Also time as well, and also, lots of other practicalities of not travelling is beneficial.
Loneliness struck a lot of people when COVID came, because they depended on their support of friends and everything, and they couldn't do that. So they're locked in 4 walls. What do?
Exactly.
That's when they get these mental health.
Very much
problems.
so. And that goes with a lot of people are saying, yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So being restricted, not allowed to do this, not allowed to see friends. I mean, we look back now, and I don't want to get political. There's a man over there with a mic. I don't want to get overly political because it's quite an emotive. But not being able to bury your mum, or families. I mean, I'm very fortunate that no one directly impacted on, died through the pandemic, through myself. But I get enraged that, Boris Johnson, who was our Prime Minister at the time, will say, only 6 people can go to a funeral and stuff like that, and he's partying. It just didn't make sense. Or eat out to help out. I mean, we can go on for ages about the absolute, I want to swear, but I won't. But, it's ridiculous. Some of the things you look back just didn't make sense, even at the time. But because we were all in shock, we just did it like sheep, 70, 80%. But when you look back now, you think, hold on a minute, that wasn't quite right. And I mean, not being able to play football out in a park, or tennis. I mean, because they said the stuff would be on the balls, or it's like, come on, man. So yeah, the mental health, being lonely, being stuck. I found as as an ex-army myself, so I'm quite keen with a lot of the sort of veterans, you know, the Second World War in particular, and I sort of get involved with some of the expat stuff and some of the ex-servicemen. And loneliness was a massive, massive impact on a lot of people of the older generation, and it fragmented a lot of families through the COVID, you know, and they weren't able to sort of visit newborn babies and stuff like that. Some of their family weren't able to see their newborns for about a year. You know, it's just horrendous that went on. And the manifestations of that is still seen today at some level. Do you know what I mean? All right, we're getting back to normal, but it's very, very difficult for a lot of people to readjust back in. Even nature, wildlife, you know, you see them sort of, you know, the animals roaming the streets, you know, and that kind of stuff, because we're all locked away. Traffic, pollution, you know, and I just feel that there's a lot of learning to have been done from that. But what we can tell you is take the benefits from that and trying to move forward in a more positive way. So, yeah. Anything else? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the availability, particularly in Thailand, of cheap alcohol, which makes it so much easier to commit suicide.
Yeah. Here. You're
Yes.
talking. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is, because we've got so many emotional issues. We all have them. Okay. Some of them less than others, but it impacts on us in different ways. And we feel that the sunshine, as I said, the beautiful people, and the culture here is very much that. But you still have to deal with those things, because all you're doing is drowning it, temporarily numbing it for a while. You know, and the access to alcohol, to drugs. Now, cannabis is free here. You know, it's openly available and it's not illegal. You know, with all the shops, and there's so many of them open, and it's open to misuse. It really is. So it's really, really difficult. I do another talk on culture. Culture is massive. Culture impacts on every single one of us. Although there are similarities with culture, but there are different cultures. And when I'm not just talking about nationalities culture, I'm talking about golf club culture. There's a culture in that. There's a culture in tennis. So this culture just permeates through all of us, you know. And just understanding the Thai culture and the clashes that sometimes that the phalangs, because obviously we come from all over the place, have with the Thai culture is a very interesting dynamic, which for another topic for another day. But really important to understand the culture that you're in and how it impacts on you, because it's getting an understanding that would help your mental health if you understand really, you know, and try not to generalize the Thais this or the, you know, the Chinese this or that kind of thing, because there are different, you know, different levels of understanding within that. The stresses. So, yeah, one of the things that has really impacted on me as coming here is just how, when you get to a different level, when you start talking to people on a one-to-one, how difficult it is for them to engage, let's say, integrate in this society, you know, in this culture, because it is different cultures, and we bring our own issues. Can anyone here give me an example of anyone that's been struggling that they know of, or even themselves, that have been struggling with the transition from their culture to here? No one. It's all been smooth sailing. Yep. Yep. 2 words. Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy and immigration. So yeah, very much so.
And coming here to live, navigating that transition from tourist to expat can be a very, very difficult one.
Yeah. And where would you get help for that?
My Lao partner.
At the expat club.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I mean, bureaucracy again, culture. Culture, as I said, is prevalent in everywhere, and it really does impact on how we interact and how we engage. It really does help to understand the other side of it as well, because this country is just rammed with bureaucracy. It's just unbelievable. I just can't believe the amount of paperwork that they generate here just for some simple things. Anyone else that culture has had an impact? For example, relationships. Relationships is massive. I mean, we could talk about relationship just on its own all day and that kind of thing. Sorry, there's one more.
I have problems with the Thais don't want to give you negative information, so that if in your house something breaks, they won't tell you. And then you have the opportunity when you really need it and said, oh, that broke last year. But why didn't you tell us it could, we could replace it? And in many, many occasions, that is the Thais avoiding to tell negative information. That is a big culture.
Yeah.
Whereas
Massive. You're really right there. And I don't want to stand here in Thailand and sort of go too much into. I've been coming here a long time, and I understand some of the aspects of the culture. But I have a lovely Thai lady, and one time actually we will do hopefully Ren invites us back. We'll do a talk with a Thai lady, so we can ask questions on that side of it. Why don't the Thai learn? But one of the things that I've learned traveling in India, for example, and other cultures, when they nod into you or accept it, they're not nodding to the thing that you're talking about, they're nodding to you. They don't want to say no. They just agree. So they will say, yes, yes. Can you fix this meeting room for tomorrow? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They're not saying yes, they will fix the meeting room. They're saying yes to you. So that's really important. So a lot of the Thais will say yes, because they don't like to lose face. They don't like to say no, that kind of thing, yeah? So, however, how do we combat them? I think what I've learned is being here is I get them engaged in it. How you think I should move this? How you think I should move table here? So then they're owning it. They're engaged in it. For example, oh, I think good idea if you move table here. Then you watch. The next time it will be moved because they're part of it. So you're taking it from just you there to actually there. So if you're working with a Thai in any way, shape or form, try and think about, they're just going to acknowledge you, but they're just saying yes to you because they don't want to lose face. But if you transport it, do you understand where I'm coming from, guys? Yes? Is anyone who doesn't? So I don't want to, go on too much about the thing, but just give them ownership of the actual of the task themselves, and then that will then transfer it from you to them. Does that make sense, everyone? Yep, someone.
The opposite of not wanting to tell you what's wrong. When I take my car to a shop, they don't hesitate to tell me everything that's wrong, and they can fix it all.
Right. Okay.
But that's worldwide, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's worldwide. But I find, again, different cultures, but I find it so accessible here, so quick to get things fixed. You talk about bureaucracy, but they're so quick to get things done here. Don't you find that? Yeah. So depending on where you're coming from. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I'm sort of taking the opposite view here.
Yeah.
The culture here is made me not want to go back to my home country. I think it's really easy to live here. It's reasonably priced. The people are wonderful. If you get one-on-one with a Thai, they're just lovely people. The whole system here makes me not want to go to the chaotic system in my home country.
Which is?
So, United States. But I mean, you have to drive everywhere. You have to compete with everything. Nobody's friendly there. So I find the culture here, unlike what I've heard from other people that are complaining about it, the culture here invites me here. Everything about this culture says, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Well done. A lot of that, sir, can I get your name? Roger, a lot of that is to do with you. Open-minded. Take it as, sabai sabai. Just open, sabai sabai, huh? Right, just being open, it really does help. It is what it is. It is what it is. Sometimes some of the stuff that you get stopped on the street and you get charged 400 baht, you can complain about it and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, back in the UK, I'm getting charged 60 quid and 80 quid for parking. Oh, it's just, I don't want to go on to that parking. I've actually stopped driving for the last 4 years in the UK because it's a nightmare. Just speed cameras everywhere and just like, you're not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that, so you're right. But it depends on you, your mental health and your openness to it all. You can see it as a problem or you can see it as not. That's my take on it, So everyone will have a different point of view. But we're here, so let's make the most of it. But understanding the culture and understanding how to, I call, navigate our way through the culture is the best way to manage our mental health. There's someone over here that had a question. Someone over there, I think, that had a question related to. Is there anyone? Is it gone now? Right, that man at the back. There's someone at the back there. And then I'll move on.
Ken. One.
I don't know how many of you guys have lived outside your home country, but this is the second country that I've lived in. And I think setting your own expectations, you know, when you go somewhere, dealing here. So if we get out of the expectation of having the experience we would have at home, maybe with the government, things like that, you automatically, you know, kind of get yourself in mind of what you're going to experience when you go and do things. You'll have a better experience. So as you deal, you know, the people here are great, but some of the times dealing with the different aspects of government stuff, licensing and our immigration and things like that, try to get ourselves in the mindset of what we're going to experience, anticipate that we're going to have difficulties, will make it an easier experience for us when we deal with it, you know.
Yeah, very much so. Well put there. I think it's coming with your preconceived ideas about what it should be. Well, a lot of guys I know here, because as I said, coming for a very long time, you get such a different lot. There's a lot of ex-firefighters, for example, that meet in Pattaya. I don't go down there because I would know my personality. I'll end up just drinking, getting a bigger belly, and just not playing tennis and keeping active. But a lot of them are angry. A lot of them come with preconceived ideas. And what about my culture? Do you know what I mean? It's all about them. What about me? Do you know what I mean? And you can't have that attitude. If you won't be like Roger. Just seeing as it is.
I would also add that maybe people fantasize about the way it was back home and the kind of grass is greener attitude. And it's not really real anyway. Like you talk about bureaucracy here, and sure, it's a nuisance, but I know if you're an immigrant trying to deal with bureaucracy in the United States, a huge problem. And I want to get a tax ID for my wife, and I keep hearing that the IRS has been bouncing the problem around for years and don't seem to be making any progress.
Very, very true. Very true, yeah. Anyone else? Anyone else have anything to add? Yeah, one more, and then I'm going to go on to a little bit about relationships, because that's the biggie, and finance.
I have to clarify my remarks. I couldn't agree with Roger more. Once I cleared the learning curve of living here, I don't ever want to go back to the United States.
Well done. And just whilst we touch on that, the United States, as a black man, I've met a number of black Americans here, and what surprised me, I meet them like for a coffee, and he didn't want to sit with his back towards the door about shootouts and stuff like that. No one carries a gun, and in America, everyone, you know, your Fifth Amendment or 10th Amendment or whatever it's called, and everyone carries a gun and all that. Can you just imagine? And being in a culture where you can breathe and relax. And I feel as a black man that I'm not judged by the colour of my skin. They genuinely accept me. Just like I can walk in a bar with you and I don't feel any way, shape or form, even better than my home country in the UK that I've lived and born and fought for and all that business. So there's an amazing tolerance here, acceptance here, that I just think is really amazing. It really is amazing. Almost I get emotional just thinking about it. But just listen to some of the guys saying that they can breathe, they can relax. They haven't got the chance of getting stopped and getting shot at just because they're different. You know, I just think that's just amazing. So we are blessed to be here, to have found this place, and we might take a lot for granted, but we are very, very fortunate. Sorry, go on. Any more? Okay. One of the major things that issues that come up is to do with relationships. It's to do with finance and relationships. Does everyone agree? Well, where do we start here? Okay, so, Nam, this bird, right? Blah, 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 blah. Again, preconceived ideas and culture. But, you come here, yes, you've got a big fat wallet, you might have a pension and all that kind of business, but you've got, you're in your 60s, you've got maybe an ex-partner back, a wife, children, all that business. You come to restart your life again, but there's certain expectations, but nothing comes for nothing. It's all right blaming other people. She stole my money, she stole this, but you've got a responsibility as well. I mean, I'm not talking here as a therapist. I'm just talking here as just like, you know, like, you have to take responsibility for your own actions as well. You know, but she said she loved me, but, you know, blah, 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 blah. And then sort of, you know, 3 months later, he's like, you know, 4 or 5 million baht less, and she's disappeared. Well, you've got to play a part in it. You're an adult, you're a grown person, you know, and it's not about blame, it's about taking personal responsibility. And I'm sure everyone in here has had some connection to do with the relationship, whether it's personally or they know of someone. So do you want to share something, see if we can do some learning here about culture to do with relationships and understanding about, and it usually has a financial, I call it a financial contract to do with that. Anyone? Yeah, one here. He's going to get the mic to you.
I don't want to talk too much about the man's details, but recently, a month ago, we had a suicide in our condo. He was 87 and he was living with he was a gay man, nice man, but he was being mentally abused, elderly abuse by his partner. He was an inveterate drinker. And so he took his life from the 5th floor, and it was a serious thing in the condo. But I just thought that's something that happens here, because the relationship breaks up, and not wanting to go back to Europe or England or America, that they've lost interest now in everything and topped themselves. Sad.
Really is sad. And one of the things that happens, and I'm talking from personal experience, not necessarily me, but my brother, they isolate you. And that's why I think these kind of groups are so important, to talk to like-minded people. Because sometimes some people, if you can't speak Thai, you can't speak fully Thai, they'll isolate you, and then you feel even more and more withdrawn, and then they can almost get you, manipulate you, and that kind of stuff. So one of the things is looking out for your friends, looking out for your colleagues, and always try and touch base with them, and just check out with them. Don't always take it what they tell you as gospel. You know, just sort of look at the signs and that kind of stuff. Trust your intuition as well. You know, trust your gut feeling and that kind of stuff, and ask questions. And if you don't hear from them, reach out to them. If you send messages and message, just go around and knock on the door. That's all it needs, because they do need that help. Sometimes it's easy to withdraw, especially in a climate like this, you know, where drink is readily available, there's sunshine and that kind of stuff. And we do get disillusioned by it. We have preconceived ideas about what life is going to be like, sunset and all that business, and it just isn't. It's just life. It's just life, and it depends on how you open yourself to life and your interpretation on life. So it really is important to understand that. And if anyone else with relationship issues or to do with the finance side, I don't want to really go into it too much, because you can talk for hours on the understanding about the contract and that kind of stuff, but it is about personal responsibility. That's what I will just want to say on that. Is there anyone else? You got time? Okay.
I got two examples. One interesting part is the P and Nong being in different ages. The Thais almost find out who is 1 year older than the other. As soon as they found out who is the older one, then the older one can command the younger one to run over there and do things. And that's in Thailand. The other thing that bothers me is that so many people talk about ties. There are no such things as ties. It's more difference between the upper and more complicated and more educated Thais than the lower Thais. In my opinion, it's almost like 50% of the people lives almost under the ground. They depend on what is the minimum wages. They will go on this today. They have the children, they don't get the education. In 50 years, it's going to be the same. They would live very poor. The rich Thais, and the old family ties, which the foreigners hardly meet. The real upper class, the real educated Thais. When you go to have something done, you think the work is very cheap here. As soon as you get to the real specialist, you go to a computer specialist, they take thousands of baht for 1 hour. So to talk about everything general, like the people meet here in Pattaya and call them all Thais, it should be more specific.
It's a bit like that in a lot of cultures, but you're so right that it's easy to just, as I said earlier on, to typecast. There are so many different levels and different ways, but it's about also understanding the culture, that kind of thing. Things like how you present yourself, they rightly or wrongly, they judge you. You go to a restaurant and, if you're Farang and you don't pay and you get your lady or your husband to pay or the guy to pay or whatever, they do take a judgment on that. And I didn't realise it, how you dress, how you present yourself, how you speak, where you come from. Where you from? You from UK? You sure? Just because I'm black or whatever, because they have preconceived ideas. There's a lot of even Americans or Chinese will question that I'm from the UK or that, because they haven't travelled. Russians, will also question. So it just varies. Yes. No, go on, say. Come on, let's say something. Yeah, but say something. What do you think? Do you find Okay. Pasiba. Right. Okay. So go on, say something.
I'm from Russia. My name is Diana.
Hello, Diana.
We relocated to Thailand, to Pattaya, maybe a year ago. Yeah. And I would say that this.
Excuse me. We can hear you. Sorry.
I would say it is hard to adapt here because you start everything from zero, from scratch. And for people my age, I'm not old enough to have money, but I'm not young enough to start from zero. So I'm starting at my level. I have big background, and I have future, and I have to start it now. And it is difficult.
There you go. Thank you. Well said there. No, it's true. It is true. It is a kind of difficult age, isn't it? So to get onto the property ladder, to have money, some of us that are old enough are quite fortunate that we've lived through a good period where we're able to accumulate some sort of money. Some of us have pensions and been able to do that. And can you imagine how distraught you are if you're naive and don't take personal responsibility, and it's gone? I mean, what do you do? How do you console that person when, if it isn't a pension or if it's a lump sum on money and that, and it's gone? Because you come with your own ideas, and you won't always have the same values as the next person. Even sometimes the people that you sit next to will have different values, that kind of stuff, let alone from a different culture. So your focus will be on something different, But yeah, no, thank you. I mean, I find that there are certain stereotypes that you can have with certain cultures, but at the end of the day, there are good and bad in everyone, as we all know, and we should know by that. Just to finish up, I'm mindful of the time. The reason why I've got these last two slides really is very much about how we can benefit from, again, I don't want to reiterate the point that I made about the culture. I mean, the weather is amazing. The people are generally amazing. Depending on your mindset and how open you are, you can have a wonderful and prosperous life, and benefit even from the learning from the pandemic, really, about reevaluating life and seeing things in a more open-minded view and being more accepting, and not everything's going to go right. There are going to be difficult times, but just look out for each other, and and just try and be a little bit more accepting and a little bit more tolerant, if that's possible. And meditation. I mean, there's so much stuff you can talk about with mental health, but I do find sitting still and meditation and just being at one with yourself and being able to be with yourself, as opposed to numbing it with alcohol or whatever drugs that is, can really help. Even if you just do 5 or 10 minutes a day, it really can be helpful. Now, I've just this is the last slide of just my information there. I have shared it with a number of people. I'm absolutely inundated at the moment with trying to support people at the moment, so I'm not sure thinking. But if you want to, you yourself or anyone else that you know that needs any help or wants to be able to, they're more than welcome to contact me, and I'll try. And if I can't signpost them to someone else, I'll try and help them myself. Okay, but thanks very much for listening, guys, and well done. Cheers.
Andy.
Q&A. If there's anyone that
Andy,
wants to, yes.
just before you wrap up, as individuals, when we have a medical problem, we go to a specialist, and obviously we're looking for a cure. We think about mental health as being totally different from being sick in that sense.
Because you can't see it, you can't feel it.
Do you ever feel that you are approaching a cure with people?
That's interesting, because as I said, I'm a psychologist, but I don't try and label. So it's about helping them to find the answers themselves. Because I'm an expert in inverted brackets, but you're the expert in you. You know you better than any professional can. So it's really important to remember that. So when you walk into a surgery or doctors or whatever, that kind of stuff, especially when it comes to talking therapies, you're the expert of your life. Okay? So they're just there to facilitate you, right? And that's really important. So you're in charge. And that's really important. Don't feel, that otherwise. So does that answer your question? Yes. Mike over there. Stephen. Hello, Stephen.
I've met a few people over the years that are what I consider acute mental confusion, and some are more chronic, where they are seeing specialists and under medication. But the acute ones they have to be restrained or taken out of society until they can recover. Now, I haven't met anybody in town that is at that stage, but people get over events that happen in their lives. And what is your outlook on helping people that have acute mental problems?
Right, acute as in chronic, as in extreme.
Yes.
Okay. Right, firstly, we've all got mental health. It just depends on how it manifests itself. Just because I'm not sort of walking around like this or doing bad behavior doesn't mean I haven't got mental health. So sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Okay, let's just clarify that first as human beings. But, sorry, yep. Yeah. Yeah, because of the different attitudes, as I said earlier on, the different attitudes towards mental health. If you're acting in a certain way, or you suffer from certain maybe Tourette's or certain kind of everything, they maybe see you as possessed. You've got spirits inside you. So again, we're fighting a really difficult battle. And as I said, for many years, I've worked with certain, even Thais, to say that they're not possessed or they haven't got spirits within them, a ghost. It's actually they're suffering from A, B, or C. But back to your question about support. I then try and empower them. Firstly, it's important to listen. There are different levels of listening, you can go into, but it's really listening to what they're saying, and sometimes even what they're not saying, to try and get to the end of it. And some people just want to feel heard, and then once they get to that stage, then they can actually look at themselves in the mirror and actually find the answers themselves. Does that make sense in any way, shape or form, or does that answer your question? Somewhat, okay. We need more time. Yes.
I've got a 26-year-old stepdaughter who comes to me and says she's sad. And she went to see a specialist at the hospital, and they basically gave her drugs. Told her to come back in 6 weeks. There doesn't seem to be anything set up to actually deal with the root of the problem. They just give them drugs.
I totally agree with that. Firstly, depending on what country you are, you sound like you're British.
Yes.
So the NHS, they're inundated. Absolutely, as I said, since the pandemic, they're inundated. So drugs is a way of temporarily numbing it, just like alcohol, just like anything else. ADHD is so widely diagnosed. I mean, as I said, I worked in schools, and any kid that's sort of behaving a bit badly, wanting attention and all that business, they've got ADHD. They label them with something like that and give them drugs, and exactly, and just the Ritalin and all that stuff to numb them down. Your stepdaughter probably needs a good 8 to 10 sessions of being heard and being listened to and encouraged to talk. And then within that period, she'll be able to sort of get a sense of herself, because she's lost. Feeling sad is often being disengaged with yourself, your soul.
But
you know,
there doesn't seem to be anything set up in Thailand for dealing with this sort of thing.
well, there are specialists. For example, in the UK, we've got there's a lot of child organisations, but as I said, they're fully inundated. You really have to pay for it. You really have to go to a specialist, maybe a one-to-one therapist or one-to-one counsellor and that kind of stuff, who can actually specifically work on a program for your stepdaughter.
Can you recommend somebody in Thailand?
As I said, I can. It's really, really difficult because the Thais, in general, the culture, they don't believe in talking therapies. But specifically in Bangkok, you can. But again, usually there's a long waiting list and it's extremely expensive. I just can't believe how they got the cheek to charge so much money on that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you get my contact details, I'll try and speak with you on a one-to-one afterwards.
Thank you.
Right. Yep.
Hi, thanks for your talk.
No problem.
You opened your talk stating that Thailand had the highest rate of suicide in Asia. Do you have any data regarding the gender, the age, economic status, and the extent possibly of alcohol or drugs?
Now, when I was reading it, actually, because someone alluded to about whether it's Thais themselves or expats, it's actually across the board. I didn't do the gender. I didn't really look at the gender, but male, it will be like, I think 84%, 84 or 74, either 84 74%, that means about male. Okay, so a lot of pressure. Quite a high number of expats, higher than Thais, a lot more than higher than Thais. Have taken their lives. So, but I can't get the exact data. I was going to actually, I was going to bore you with a lot of statistical data, but I just thought, no, I'll just talk about it. And you can do your own research. Anyway, you can get onto the net and just Google it. All right? Does that make sense? Yeah? But a lot of men, a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on men, being the breadwinner. Certain cultures, especially in this culture again, being the breadwinner and that kind of stuff. But actually, a lot of the women bring the money into the families. As we know, they send money to the families. There's a lot of pressure on them to find a rich phalang and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get into too pressure, but there's a lot of stuff, subcultural stuff that goes on. On the right, yeah.
As a therapist, are you familiar with the term inner child?
The inner child, yes.
Self-parenting?
Say again, sorry?
Self-parenting.
Self-hurting.
Yeah.
Parent, oh yes, of course, yeah. We've got like the three. We've got the child, the parent, and the adult within ourselves. Yeah, that triangle sort of thing, yes. Yeah, I am. Yeah. And sometimes you do have to check yourself. When you're engaging with something, sometimes we're engaging in child mode when you're arguing and that kind of stuff. And you have to sort of like, try and be your own self-monitoring, do you know what I mean? And that kind of stuff. That takes a lot of work, but as we get older, we talk about emotional intelligence, and that kind of stuff. So one of the things that I experienced actually, and I did a workshop on culture, and I'm aware that we're close to time, is, right, I went to the market, the store opposite near Central, and I bought 5 tops for my friends back at home, lady tops, really nice tops, right? It was 250, I think, 250 baht. I got it down to 200, gave her 1,000 baht, scan paid, and then got it back. As I got it back home, I got it out and had a look and all that. I had 4 in there. There's only 2, 3, 4. I was like, no, I had a choice here. I could have gone, like, how dare you? And I went mad and that kind of stuff. And I went down there. And as I was going down, I got a taxi there anyway. That cost me 90 baht. And then that's why I got a taxi back. But I changed my mind. I think, come on, man, you're a therapist now. You're not a boxer or a rugby player, or you're not in the streets of London. So sort yourself out. So I changed my mindset. And what I did with the lady, same lady, and actually, funny enough, Shows that I'm a reasonably nice guy, because I actually gave the little kid that was on the beanbag 20 baht as I went out, like the first time, because I thought I'd done a deal. Got it down to 200 from that. Gave the little kid 20 baht. So I swaddy up and went. So they remembered me. Not that it's difficult to forget, but anyway, they remembered me, right? So I went back. I said, so I had a choice of two things. I could have gone, oi, I buy 5. Why you give me 4? Blah, blah, blah. Big argument and that kind of stuff. Remember, they don't like losing face. Don't like losing face. So don't go there all angry and all that business. You ain't going to win, mate. Right, so the next, what I did on the way back, what I did was, I thought, right, how can I go? Because I've got to think about, we've all got to think about what we want at the end of it. What's our objective? And the objective, I want 5 of the tops that I paid for. So what I did was, as I went there, I went, Sawadee Krap, I think I make mistake. Yesterday I buy 5. This is my tie, by the way. Yesterday I buy 5 tops, but I only take 4, even though she was the one that was putting them in, right? And she said, oh, Swad, no problem. You take. This is literally, you take whatever one you want, you take. And I went, all right, cheers, thanks. And I had that one, Swadee Krap, and I went. Took 30 seconds. We all smiled and laughed, all that business. Now, they're market traders. Of course they want to. They probably think I'm American, probably won't come back again, all that kind of business. But it was so lovely. It was so lovely. So I thought I'd share that. So we did a workshop. Do you remember? With the workshop with Pat. And yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But it's about understanding from their point. We get that in our countries. People, market traders, all that, try and get one over us. So it's not like it's unique to Thailand. It's like everywhere, the market traders. But it's about thinking about what you want at the end of it and thinking about, but always taking a back, you know, like, I don't know, is it passive kind of role? You know what I mean? That kind of thing, so they don't lose face. She gave me the extra one. She was so kind, so lovely and smiling. And then I'm thinking, yeah, you're cheating so-and-so. But anyway, but thanks anyway. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. But there's loads of different things like that which we can learn from. I better stop here because come on. Is that all right? Yeah? Because I don't want to go into...
Well, I think it was a bit of a mini therapy session here today for many people. So a big, huge round of applause for Andy. And I'm sure we'd be delighted to have you back for another therapy session, especially about, well, whatever you wanted to talk about. We do have a small, come over here, Andy. We have a small token of our deep appreciation. Let's come back and give another talk.